So, you saw the title of today's video. So gives us freedom, makes us free. Relationship with soul. Eventually, if you trust it, it will pull you out, will give you freedom. Society takes that freedom away. It kills the freedom. In fact, really, the moment we are born, we are deprived of our freedom. And then this continues throughout the whole life. You go to kindergarten and preschool, you have been taught how to read, how to write. Later at school, what to think, what to remember. And this continues your whole life, unless you manage to have some kind of breakdown, I would say. You've had enough of society, you've been hurt, you've been disappointed, it failed you so many times. People, culture, the job, your family, whatever it is, your partner, usually it is your partner, your wife, your husband, your lover, that you begin to turn inwards. Then something happens. But usually I would say nothing really worthwhile or mystical is really going to happen to you until that moment where there's nowhere to turn, only inward. Yeah? And there's a saying, I remember a few mystics have been saying, where the wound is, that's where the light enters you. And that's what that means. Until you have hit the rock bottom, there's nowhere else to go but inward. Usually nothing happens. But when it happens, when you finally do turn inward, wholeheartedly turn inward, you will find that there is something there, something within you that has always been there. And it has always been waiting for you to return to it, to make, for a relationship with it. And it begins the long, sometimes very long process of freeing you finally, of finally freeing you from the outside, from the forces, from all the things that are being placed on you, that you have to live this way, think this way, dress this way, eat this, or marry this person, that person. It frees you from it. But so if you let it, if you return to the society without keeping in touch with this inner power, this inner resources of the soul, of the inner self, society will begin to kill that freedom again. So you're not going to be free. It's not easy to be free. It's not easy to have a narrative, to live from your own inner resources. I can tell you this from my own personal experience. I've had this YouTube channel for how long now? Is it 2-3 years? Longer maybe? And I think I still have like 130 followers. Talking about things that the narrative is so different that it is something that you're not supposed to be actually talking about. The words such as goddess and the feminine, the sacred feminine, divine feminine, your intuition. All these things are picked up by the logarithms of the social media, and these are not getting a lot of attention. I know for a fact that a few people have shared with me that I'll tell you a story of mine, and then I'll read you something. It's kind of, I was going to talk about something else today whatsoever, but this post that I did yesterday and someone replied triggered me to talk about this freedom, which is very, very important. And something happened to me not so long ago. I'm kind of people invite me to groups on Facebook, not really knowing what I write about, what I talk about, and then shock and horror when I actually post into their group, they don't know what to do with it. Anyway, one such group is the regular mainstream psychology, you know, and I've posted a few posts in there, especially my videos and my writing when I talk about intuition. And one thing that really got up there, goat, I suppose, was the video that I did a few months ago about talking about mainstream psychology, that if you went to a psychologist with your dreams, with your visions, with your intuitive findings, that you have you have your own resources from within you, and that they're dictating your life to you, they would say you're crazy. They would put you on tranquilizers. Yes, you know, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Do you know what I'm saying? And so now I do sometimes, you know, forgetfully, when I post into groups, I still post something into there, but it never gets approved. You see? So that's what I mean by freedom. There's the freedom of what you're allowed to be in society, what you're allowed to talk about, and there's the inner freedom that comes from within you. And once you find that inner freedom that comes from within you, the strength to be able to be a deviant, because that's what you're really going to be called in society, going against the narrative comes from within as well. You see? So I couldn't do my work, what I write about, without actually having that inner reassurance, that inner strength that comes to me from my own inner findings, dreams and visions. Yeah. So that's important. Now I'll read to you what I wrote. I wrote this a few years ago, but I posted it again yesterday on Facebook, and someone replied, and I'll read to you the reply. I'll read you the post and then the reply, and I'll discuss it a little bit. So let me just put my glasses on. So this is the post that the person replied to. You want to heal the inner split between you and soul, don't you? That's the whole purpose of our life, really. Then, for pity's sake, stop quoting people and quote your intuition, the song of the conscious universe, not what it said once long ago, but what it's saying right now. Exactly, you know. Stop, you know, if you want to heal the split, which is really the reason for our pathology, for our you know, all the problems in society, because we don't have any access to the spirit anymore. We don't hear the inner voice. It doesn't give us guidance. The only advice that we get is from our, you know, elites, politicians, from Pope, from the Dalai Lama, from CNN, but hardly ever from your own dreams and visions. How many people do you know that have posted, for instance, on Facebook, oh, I've had this guidance so and so on in my dream, and it turned out to be true? How many? Exactly, not many. So I'll show you what the person replied, and I'm not going to give you the name of the person, not that you would know the person, but, you know, just, it's okay. So anyway, so this is what the person replied. I made a pact post recently to not post anything that isn't my original writing or art. The soul always asks for you to write its own findings, your own original, you know, discoveries, your intuitive stuff. Memes receive tons of reactions on social media, and original thought receives very few, and it's making us less and less nuanced in our thinking and causing us to lose our individuality. Exactly. But that's the purpose of the memes on memes, or what do you want to call them, on social media. They're meant to catch your attention and forget about your own you know, creativity and having something to say, original thought. You just mindlessly copy and paste and pass it on forward, and then someone else copies and pastes, someone else copies, and this is how we get programmed to just do what we're told. You know, Joseph Campbell talked about this so many times. We live like machines, programmed machines. That's what Matrix was all about. You know, remember the moment when Neo finally gets the message, Neo, wake up? That's the whole thing of my work here and on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. I don't even get any reactions on Twitter anymore. you know, I got upset. Not upset. I refused to go along with the Russophobia when the war in Ukraine started. You know, and said, you know, Russians are just, you know, they're just as part of a branch of a one single tree of life like anybody else. And of course, I lost, you know, hundreds of friends just by saying that and posting a few things that are from their perspective, you know, how they've been treated for so many decades. Now that I post anything on Twitter, it doesn't get any reactions at all. I've upset the crowd, I've upset the narrative. But that's the job. The job of a real poet or an artist is to upset your your beliefs, your ideology, the narrative that you've been programmed with, so that you can become freed of it and something else can come through and you can realize you can have a moment of awakening. There's something that I wasn't going to quote anyone because that goes against what I'm saying, but I posted something from a friend yesterday by Jung. Now I don't know whether Jung actually said this. This doesn't sound like, well, maybe he did. I mean, I haven't read everything by Jung, and I'm not a Jungian really. I like Jung's work, especially like these memories, dreams, reflections, because I thought, oh my God, you know, the process of this awakening, of recovery of the soul, the inner self. His and mine were nearly identical. I mean, just my own personal things around me are different, but the process is identical. It's identical for everyone. Like Joseph Campbell pointed out, you know, the journey is inward, and then you come back with your treasure. Anyway, so this is what Jung apparently said, and it says, the deep critical thinker has become the misfit of the world. This is not a coincidence. Exactly. To maintain order and control, you must isolate the intellectual, the sage, the philosopher, the savant before the ideas awaken people. Exactly. That's why they burnt women for 5 centuries, like I said in my previous videos, because women, they didn't have the access to education like men. They still retain their own access to their inner dreams, to the inner life. Dreams, visions, intuitions, you know, they made their own conclusions a lot easier than men do. And they had the access to it. And that wasn't allowed, because if you have your own authority, inner authority, the outside, the people that want to hold on to power are no longer necessary. So you got to get rid of anyone that is teaching others to awaken, to get out, to be free. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay. So let me see. Oh, I'll go back to what I replied to this person. I replied this morning. I'll put my glasses on. I replied to this person this morning, writing about losing her individuality. The other person decided to post only her own work and art, but it receives hardly any attention. Not like the memes. I mean, I've been posting on Facebook nearly 12 years. I can tell you this from my own experience. And yes, a lot of my work is deep, and it's probably too deep for most people. I talk about such things as the archetypes and going to the center, mythology, going past your own personal concerns of survival, you know, of your hoarding and reproduction and holding on to power, your own family, your own little tribe. Look wider to the tribe that is whole humanity and perhaps the whole universe. So I understand that my work is never going to get a lot of views or a lot of likes, because it's just simply too deep. Yeah. But anyway, so this is what I replied to this person. Yes, exactly. But this is done on purpose, to make us more easily under the control of outside authority, to look within to your own findings and answers to life's questions makes you a deviant in the eyes of those who want to hold on to power. Exactly. You're not allowed to be this way. Otherwise, you're a troublemaker. You got to be they got to get rid of you. That is why they burnt women for 5 centuries, or today cancel anyone who speaks a different narrative than the one peddled by our corporate media, politicians, or religious elites. Yes, my Facebook account, I still to this day, I don't know how I got it back. I got angry and I contacted Facebook, I wrote a letter and I got my account. But usually this never happens, but they've deleted my account. I was, nearly 12 years of the work of the recovery of the soul, the divine feminine, sacred feminine, the journey to the soul, the dreams, the visions, the intuition, the mythology, the coincidences. All this is recorded on my profile. The process of how to get to it, how to do it, it's all there with a lot of quotes because people need quotes. If I find that too, I find this also, that if I post something which is only said by me from within me, from my intuition, never gets anywhere near as much as attention if I put something by it's something that I've written, then I put a quote underneath. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll people click on it and like it and so on, and sometimes even people comment on it. But if I do strictly my own work, no, that's not allowed. I mean, how dare you post something that you've created from yourself? So that's what I wanted to say. This is a really difficult subject. Let me have a look. This is a really difficult subject to talk about because people are conditioned to believe that they are free. A bird raised inside a cage will never understand what it feels for the other birds that are flying free. It thinks it is free. Do you know? I also, for many, to me, I think it happened early because I'm quite intuitive. And I never really lost touch with my creativity or dreams. I find life difficult. If you're intuitive, especially intuitive introvert, you will find life difficult because life does not value the same things you value. So, when you find life difficult, like I said at the beginning, you turn inwards to do the things that make sense to you. So that makes you a loner. I'm a loner. I really have always been a loner my whole life. I have my dogs that keep me company. I have my birds in the backyard that come and have something to eat every day. I have a bird ibis living on the roof because he comes and has something to eat every day. So he's a new friend. He's been actually here for 12 months. When you have been disappointed by society, and when people have let you down repeatedly over and over and over, then the only solution is look within, and there you find something else that wants you to be free. But remember, living free is not going to make you popular. It's not going to make you sell millions of copies of books. It's not going to make your posts, make you famous on Facebook or anywhere, or like me on YouTube. Like I said, the channel has been, I think, 3 years and I'm still like 130 followers. And some of my, most of my videos get 15, 16 views, 1 like. And I get excited when I get that because, at the beginning there were like 3 views, 4 views, no views, So when you do find this inward thing, and it doesn't have to be very deep. You don't need to go very deep to actually find that something is talking to you. There are coincidences. There will be moments when you're stuck in traffic and the number plate in front of you has something meaningful to you to say, or an ad on a passing bus, says something to you. These are all efforts of the soul, of your inner self, to communicate with you. And the moment you start to pay attention to them more and more, I used to carry a notepad and pencil. Now I have smartphone and so on. So if I need to dictate something, something occurred to me, I do it that way. But I usually now I've trained myself so much that I don't forget. I remember what, if there's something that I received. But that's how the relationship starts. It does not need to be, archetypal dreams, and you don't need to be, going and visiting the deity straight away, which is not easy. And that process is possible, but like I said, only when you really had this, there's nothing left for you outside. Jung speaks about that as well. His whole purpose when he had his biggest dreams and we had his biggest archetypal experiences of the deity, where he went the deepest, was when, after his argument with Freud, and his whole life kind of slipped from under his feet, and he turned away from society because he was disappointed by the whole thing. Freud didn't want to hear anything about the collective unconscious. Freud was all about the personal unconscious. Jung has found in his patients, and within him especially, that there's a deeper layer, something that is collective to all of humanity. And that's what he's stuck with. And when that rift came between Freud and Jung, Jung had a huge, what shall we call, a breakup, psychotic breakup, if you like. And he completely turned inward, and he bought more books and so on. That's where we get the dreams and the process of finding the soul in Jung's work, especially in his memories, dreams, reflections. And in same with the shaman. In the old days, and even now, a talented shaman will have a crack-up, which is called a psychological crack-up. They will literally have an experience of the divine, of the deity, the unconscious. They fall into the unconscious. And they do that because either it happens to them when they're very young and they get sick, like it happened to Black Elk of the Sioux Nation. You probably know his story. He was only 9 years old when he had the great vision. He was sick for quite a long time, and then he fell into it. The unconscious opened up. But what that does, how that actually happens, is it's like an out-of-body experience. In other words, your body has to get out of the way. You got to drop the body and its demands for survival, for eating, for reproducing, for holding on to power so it survives. We are preoccupied in our whole life from the moment we're really born to the moment we die with this. But if you manage to some people experience this when they have, when they go to the hospital, for instance, when they're under anesthesia, or they experience this moment of awakening to a deeper dimension. A friend of ours had a few years ago had an operation on his heart. And when he was under anesthesia, he saw himself lying on the operating table. He was floating above. The doctors were working on him, but he was floating above. And there was a door up in the ceiling, even higher than the ceiling. There was a door. He knew that was the door to heaven, the Garden of Eden. But the door was closed. And he said, if the door would have been open, I wouldn't have not returned. I would have died. So, process of enlightenment, of seeing, of going deeper to that center where the deity is, to heaven or Garden of Eden, is exactly the same as process of dying. Yeah? That famous Czech Stanislav Grof, he was famous for working with LSD, and now he works with holotropic breathing. He said the same thing, that the process of enlightenment and the process of dying are identical, mythological, archetypal. So what you go to the other, when you go deeper to the other dimension, to the archetypal, that which is really common to us, so this is where you go to recovery of the soul, yeah, is identical. So that's what I really wanted to talk to you about today, about freedom. Freedom, like I said, is a very difficult topic. And people will argue that they're free because they live in a democratic society. They have freedoms of speech. They have freedoms of getting work, whatever they like. But that's not freedom. That's just mainly making it easier for you to survive. The freedom, the real freedom, you've got to be a deviant. You've got to be someone like a real poet or an artist or a shaman, you know, someone who does not live amongst the society. Nearly all shamans in the old days lived outside the village. They lived, you know, a few 100 meters or even, you know, outside, because they were not welcome. First of all, they were not welcome in the village because of the way that the people were afraid of them. And another reason is that they didn't want to have to be influenced by what's going on in the village, the infighting, the jealousy and all that. And another thing I wanted to mention, just came to me when I was talking about this, is when you're really free, when you manage to have the insights come direct from within you, from the soul, from the inner self, or whatever you want to call it, intuitively in your dreams, people who are not like that are going to be jealous of you. And when people are jealous of you, they will try to destroy you. It doesn't have to be your elites or politicians or religious elites or the social media. It'll be your friends and your family. Ask me how I know. It's true. I have had quite a few people come to me over the years that they are different in a way that the family cannot understand them. Their partner doesn't understand them. Even when they were a child, they didn't understand them. And they have always, because of this not understanding and the jealousy of their freedom, they lived outside. They lived below the radar. Most poets and the real artists live below the radar. They're never going to get a mention. Not like the ones that are going to the parties and do all the tours with the right people, know all the right people. They don't have the talent, but they get published and they get the art sold and so on. But the real ones that are actually making something original from the inner self, from the soul, hardly ever are popular or famous or make money. Ask me how I know. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to talk to you today. The freedom, the soul. It's such a difficult subject, but if you do manage to get the friendship with the soul, a relationship going with the soul, you will begin the process of freeing you. Society kills our freedom. Okay? So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll see you in the next one.